Cashier humiliates Lara Trump in boutique. Didn't know she was the millionaire's daughter-in-law. The morning started like any other for Lara Trump. Her alarm went off at 5:30 a.m., and she could already hear her kids stirring in their rooms. Eric had left early for a business meeting in Chicago, leaving her to handle both the morning routine and the campaign meetings scheduled for later. "Mommy, I don't want the blue bowl," Carolina whined, pushing away her breakfast cereal. "I want the pink one." "The pink one's in the dishwasher, sweetie," Lara explained, simultaneously checking her phone for urgent messages while trying to get Eric to put on his shoes. "The blue one has unicorns too, see?" "But I want pink." Just another morning in the Trump household. Not the gilded existence people imagined, but the normal chaos of any family with young children. Lara wouldn't have it any other way. After dropping the kids off at school, she headed straight to campaign headquarters. The meeting room was already packed when she arrived, campaign staffers clutching their coffee cups like lifelines. "Mrs. Trump," her assistant Jessica hurried over. "We have the polling numbers from the Midwest, and T here is some concern about the messaging in." "Can we do this after I've had my coffee?" Lara interrupted with a tired smile. "I just spent 20 minutes convincing my daughter that blue bowls are just as good as pink ones." Jessica laughed. "Of course. But don't forget you have that strategy meeting at 11. The morning dragged on in a blur of PowerPoint presentations and heated discussions about campaign tactics. By the time lunch rolled around, Lara's head was pounding. "That's it," she muttered to herself, gathering her things. "I need a break." Jessica looked up from her laptop. "But the afternoon briefing." "Reschedule it," Lara said, already heading for the door. "I am taking 2 hours for myself. If anyone needs me, they can wait." She didn't bother changing out of her casual clothes, yoga pants and an oversized cashmere sweater she'd thrown on for the morning school run. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she'd skipped makeup entirely. It felt good to be comfortable, to not have to maintain the perfect image everyone expected from a The streets of New York were busy as always, but there was something freeing about blending into the crowd. Most days, she had to carefully consider her appearance, knowing photographers could be anywhere. Today, she just wanted to be anonymous. Elysian Boutique had been her sanctuary for years. The moment she pushed open the heavy glass door, the familiar scent of leather and perfume welcomed her. The soft lighting and quiet music usually helped her relax immediately. Usually. "Welcome to Elysian," a voice called out, more automated than welcoming. Amanda Chen, the saleswoman, barely looked up from the display she was arranging. She was new, Lara didn't recognize her, and seemed more interested in perfectly aligning a row of handbags than acknowledging her customer. Lara wandered over to a rack of dresses, running her fingers along the expensive fabrics. A gorgeous red Valentino caught her eye. "Excuse me," she called out to Amanda. "Could I see this in a size 4? Amanda glanced over, her eyes scanning Lara's casual outfit with poorly concealed disdain. "That particular piece is from our premium collection. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable looking at our ready-to-wear section?" "I am actually quite familiar with Valentino," Lara said mildly, used to people making assumptions. "I'd like to try it on." Amanda's perfectly sculpted eyebrow arched. "The dress is $12,000. We typically reserve our designer pieces for established clients." A few other customers browsing nearby pretended not to listen, but Lara could see them watching the interaction in the mirror's reflection. "I understand," Lara said, keeping her voice level. "I've been shopping here for 7 years. I am sure Sarah can verify that." "Sarah's with another client," Amanda replied dismissively, "and I've worked here for 3 months. I've never seen you before." She paused, looking Lara up and down again. "We get a lot of people who come in to browse, but we have to be selective about who handles our most exclusive pieces." The implied insult hung in the air. Lara felt her cheeks growing warm, not from embarrassment, but from a slow-building anger. She'd faced plenty of judgment since marrying into the Trump family. Political attacks, social snubs, media criticism. But this was different. This wasn't about her last name or her political affiliations. This was pure, simple snobbery. "I'd like to speak to Sarah," Lara said finally. "As I mentioned, she's with another client." Amanda's tone dripped with condescension. "Perhaps you could come back another time with an appointment?" And maybe dressed more appropriately? A young woman near the shoe display had her phone out now, trying to discreetly record the interaction. Lara caught her eye in the mirror, and the woman quickly looked away. I don't need an appointment, Lara insisted, her patience wearing thin. I've never needed one before. Listen, Amanda said, stepping closer and lowering her voice. I am trying to be polite here. But this isn't the kind of store where you can just wander in wearing gym clothes and expect to handle pieces that cost more than a car. Why don't you try Zara? It's just down the street. The words stung more than Lara wanted to admit. She thought about all the times she'd been in this very store, dropping thousands of dollars without a second thought. The times she'd brought her mother-in-law in to shop for special events, the charity fashion show she'd helped organize here just last year. But standing there in her casual clothes, without the usual trappings of wealth and status, she was just another person to be judged and dismissed. Do you know what the most interesting thing about money is? Lara asked quietly. Amanda blinked, thrown off by the question. Excuse me? Money, wealth, status. The most interesting thing about it is how it changes people. Not the ones who have it, the ones who want to be near it, to touch it, to feel important by association. Lara's voice was steady now. Like you, right now, thinking you are protecting some imaginary standard by judging someone based on their clothes. Amanda's expression hardened. I am going to have to ask you to leave. Are you sure you want to do that? Yes, I am quite sure. And if you don't leave voluntarily, I'll call security. The tension in the store was palpable now. Other customers had stopped pretending to shop and were openly watching. The young woman with the phone was definitely recording. That's when Sarah's voice rang out from the back of the store. Mrs. Trump, I thought I heard your voice. The color drained from Amanda's face as Sarah, the store manager, hurried over with a bright smile. I just finished arranging the alterations on those gowns for your charity event next week. Would you like to see them while you are here? And just like that, the moment Lara had been dreading and secretly anticipating arrived. But the satisfaction she expected to feel at Amanda's shocked expression didn't come. Instead, she felt something else entirely. Something that would shape how the rest of this encounter played out. Amanda stood frozen, her mouth slightly open, as Sarah approached them with a warm smile. The manager's heels clicked against the marble floor, each step echoing in the now silent store. I was just explaining to your employee about my history with the store, Lara said calmly, though her heart was racing. Sarah's smile faltered slightly as she glanced between Lara and Amanda. Oh, is everything all right here? Before either could respond, another voice piped up from nearby. I have it all on video, if you want to see how your employee treats people. It was the young woman with the phone, stepping forward with a determined expression. That won't be necessary, Lara said quickly, turning to the woman. Please delete it. But she was so rude to you. People should know. Delete it, please. Lara's voice was firm but kind. Some lessons are better learned in private. The young woman hesitated, then nodded, tapping her phone screen a few times. Deleted, but she deserves to be fired. Sarah was starting to look alarmed. Mrs. Trump, if Amanda has done anything inappropriate, she did what most people do. Lara interrupted. She made assumptions. She judged a book by its cover. She turned to face Amanda directly. Would you like to know what I was doing before I came here? Amanda, still pale, managed a small nod. I was in campaign meetings all morning. Before that, I was trying to convince my 5-year-old that blue bowls are just as good as pink ones. I threw on these clothes at 5:30 this morning because they were comfortable, and I didn't change because I didn't think I needed to prove anything to anyone, especially not in a store where I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. A few gasps came from the small crowd that had gathered. Amanda looked like she might faint. Mrs. Trump, I had no idea. I am so sorry. Please, let me show you the Valentino collection. Now you are sorry? Lara asked quietly. Because you know who I am? Because you know I could buy everything in this store without blinking? That's actually worse than your original behavior. Sarah stepped forward. Amanda, go to my office. We'll discuss this. No, Lara said firmly. She stays right here. Because this is a teaching moment, isn't it, Amanda? Tell me, how many other women have walked through that door in yoga pants or jeans? How many of them got the same treatment you gave me? How many left feeling humiliated because they didn't meet your standards?" Amanda's eyes filled with tears. Real ones, not the fake kind meant to save her job. I don't know. Too many, probably." "Too many," Laura repeated. "You know, here is something interesting about wealth and status. It doesn't make you a better person. It doesn't make you more worthy of respect. All it does is give you choices, and right now I have a choice about how to handle this situation." The store was absolutely silent now. Even the usual ambient music seemed to have stopped. Sarah stood nervously to the side. Other customers watched with bated breath, and Amanda looked like she was awaiting a death sentence. Laura took a deep breath. What she did next would determine more than just this moment. It would either reinforce every stereotype about the Trump family's vindictiveness, or it would show a different way forward. So here is what we're going to do. Laura said, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside her. "First, I'd like to try on that Valentino dress, the red one, size 4. Amanda blinked rapidly, clearly thrown by this unexpected response. Of course, right away, Mrs. Trump." "And Amanda?" Laura added as the saleswoman turned to retrieve the dress. "I'd like the whole collection brought to the fitting room, every piece." Sarah, the manager, jumped in. "I'll help bring everything." "No," Laura interrupted. "Amanda will do it, alone." As Amanda scurried off to gather the clothes, Laura noticed her hands shaking. The other customers in the store were still watching, some pretending to browse nearby racks while stealing glances, others openly staring. The young woman who had recorded the incident was typing furiously on her phone. "I thought you deleted the video," Laura said quietly. The young woman looked up, startled. "Oh, I did, I promise. I am just texting my mom. She'll never believe this." "What won't she believe?" Laura asked, genuinely curious. "That someone was rude to me, or that I didn't immediately demand they be fired?" The young woman, she couldn't have been more than 20, hesitated. "Both, I guess. I mean, you are a Trump." And there it was. The name, the expectations, the weight of public perception that had followed her for years. "What's your name?" Lara asked. "Katie." "Well, Katie, let me tell you something about being a Trump." Lara gestured to a nearby seating area. "Come sit with me while Amanda gets the clothes." Katie followed hesitantly, clutching her phone like a lifeline. They sat on the plush velvet chairs, and Lara noticed several other customers edging closer to listen. "Everyone thinks they know what it means to be a Trump," Lara began. "They think it's all gold towers and private jets. But you know what the hardest part is? The assumptions. The judgment. Every single day, people think they know exactly who you are and what you are worth based on a last name." Katie shifted uncomfortably. "But you are worth a lot. I mean, financially." Lara smiled sadly. "Now, yes, but I wasn't born into this. Before I married Eric, I was just a regular person. I worked in television, sure, but I wasn't wealthy. I knew what it felt like to have people judge you based on your appearance or your bank account." Amanda returned, pushing a rack full of designer dresses. Her face was flushed from the effort, and her earlier arrogance had completely vanished. "The fitting room is ready, Mrs. Trump," she said softly. "Thank you, Amanda." Laura stood up. "And while I am trying these on, why don't you tell everyone here about your job?" My job?" "Yes. How long have you worked here? What made you want to work in fashion? What's your dream?" Amanda's lower lip trembled slightly. "I've been here 3 months. I always wanted to work in luxury fashion. Ever since I was little, watching my mom sew dresses for extra money." "Go on," Laura encouraged, following her to the fitting room. "We were poor," Amanda continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "Really poor. I worked 2 jobs to put myself through fashion school. When I got this job, I thought I'd finally made it. That I was finally good enough." Laura stopped at the fitting room door. "Good enough for what, Amanda? To make other people feel small?" The words hung in the air like heavy perfume. Several customers nodded in agreement, and Sarah, the manager, looked increasingly uncomfortable. "Mrs. Trump," Sarah interjected. "Perhaps we should handle this privately." "No," Lara said firmly. "This needs to be heard, because what happened today isn't just about me. It's about every person who's walked into this store and been made to feel less than human because they weren't wearing the right clothes or carrying the right bag." She turned back to Amanda. "Help me with these dresses. We're going to try on every single one. And while we do, you are going to tell me about every person you've judged since you started working here. Every single one." The next hour was unlike anything the store had ever seen. Lara tried on dress after dress, making Amanda zip and unzip each one. And as she did, Amanda began to talk. "There was a woman last week," she admitted, adjusting the hem of a blue silk gown. "She came in wearing flip-flops and carrying a Target bag. I told her our cheapest item was $500, hoping she'd leave. She started crying and ran out. Later, I found out she'd just gotten her first big promotion and wanted to buy herself something special to celebrate." Lara met Amanda's eyes in the mirror. "And how did that make you feel?" "Powerful at first," Amanda whispered. "Then terrible. But I did it again the next day, and the next. It was like I was finally on the other side of the counter. Like I could finally be the one looking down on people instead of being looked down on." Tears rolled down Amanda's cheeks, smearing her carefully applied makeup. In the mirror, Lara could see her own eyes glistening too. "The worst part is," Amanda continued, "I became exactly what I used to hate. When I was growing up, my mom would take me shopping for special occasions. We'd save for months. And every time, some saleswoman would treat us like we were dirt. I swore I'd never be like that. But here I am." Outside the fitting room, the store had gone quiet. Even the usual ambient music seemed muted, as if the building itself was listening to this confession. "Do you know what I see when I look at you, Amanda?" Lara asked, turning away from the mirror to face her directly. Amanda shook her head, unable to meet Lara's gaze. "I see myself, years ago, before all this, before the name, before the money, before everything changed. I see someone who's scared of not being enough. Someone who thinks that making others feel small will somehow make them feel bigger." "I am so sorry," Amanda whispered, "not just because you are, you, but because you are right about everything." Lara reached for another dress, a stunning black evening gown with intricate beading. "Zip me up." As Amanda's trembling hands worked the zipper, Lara continued, "You know what the difference is between old money and new money?" "What?" "Old money whispers, new money shouts, but real class, real worth, it has nothing to do with money at all." The dress fit perfectly, the beading catching the light and throwing sparkles across the fitting room walls, but Lara barely glanced at her reflection. "My father-in-law lives in gold towers with his name on them. That's his choice, his style. But do you know what real power is, Amanda? Real power isn't making someone feel small. Real power is having the ability to destroy someone and choosing not to." Outside the fitting room, someone started clapping. The sound was quickly shushed, but its effect rippled through the store. "Mrs. Trump," Sarah called from outside, "should I start processing Amanda's termination paperwork?" Lara opened the fitting room door, the black dress swirling around her feet. The small crowd of customers gasped, partly at the dress, partly at the tension of the moment. "No one is getting fired today," Lara announced, "but something is going to change." Katie, still clutching her phone, stepped forward. "But she deserves to be fired. She was horrible to you, and probably to lots of other people too." "And what would that solve?" Lara asked. "She'd just go work somewhere else, carry the same attitudes, maybe get even more bitter. No, firing her isn't the answer. Teaching her is." Amanda stood in the fitting room doorway, mascara streaked down her cheeks, looking both terrified and hopeful. "Here is what's going to happen," Lara said, addressing not just Amanda but the entire store. "I am going to buy this dress, and the red one, and probably 3 or 4 others. Not because I need them, but because I can. And Amanda is going to handle the entire transaction." She turned to face the saleswoman directly. "And every time you ring up one of these dresses, I want you to think about all the people you've turned away, all the dreams you've crushed, all the moments of joy you've stolen because you thought your job was to judge people instead of help them. The store was absolutely silent now. Even the usual street noise seemed muffled, as if the world outside had paused to witness this moment. "Sarah," Laura called to the manager, "I want Amanda to handle all my purchases from now on, every time I come in, and I want her to train all new employees. But first—" She turned back to Amanda. "First, you are going to call that woman, the one with the promotion and the Target bag. You are going to find her, apologize, and invite her back. And you are going to treat her like she's me." Amanda nodded frantically, tears still streaming down her face. "Yes, of course, I'll find her. I remember her name from her credit card. She tried to buy a scarf before I made her leave." "Good," Laura said. "Because here is the thing about karma, Amanda. Sometimes it comes in the form of a lesson instead of punishment. Sometimes it gives you a chance to be better instead of just feeling worse." She gestured to the rack of designer dresses. "Now help me choose a few more, and this time pretend I'm that woman with the Target bag. Show me what real customer service looks like." As Amanda began pulling out dresses with shaking hands, Laura caught Katie's eye in the mirror. "Still texting your mom?" Katie shook her head. "Number I just deleted my whole Twitter thread about this. Some stories are better left untold. Some lessons are better learned in person." Laura smiled. Maybe, just maybe, something good would come from this day after all. The next hour in the boutique transformed into something unexpected, a masterclass in humanity. As Amanda helped Laura try on more dresses, her hands gradually stopped shaking. Her voice grew steadier. But her eyes remained wide with a mix of shame and revelation. "This one," Laura said, examining an emerald green gown. "Tell me about it like you would to any customer who walks in. Someone you want to help, not judge." Amanda cleared her throat. It's from the new collection. The color is really unique. It changes slightly under different lights. The designer was inspired by—" "No," Laura interrupted gently, "not the sales pitch. Talk to me like I'm a person who came in excited to buy something special. Remember that woman with the promotion?" "How do you wish you'd talk to her?" Amanda's face softened. "This would look amazing on you. The cut is really flattering, and the color would make your eyes pop. Plus it has pockets, actual pockets, hidden in the seams. You could totally hide snacks in there during long events." A genuine laugh escaped Laura's lips. "Now that's real, that's helpful. That's someone who wants to make another person feel good, not small." Katie, who was still watching from nearby, spoke up. "I work retail too, you know, at a coffee shop, and sometimes I catch myself judging people who order complicated drinks or pay in change." "We all do it," Laura acknowledged, turning to face the small crowd that had gathered. "We all find ways to feel superior sometimes. But what matters is recognizing it and choosing to be better." Sarah, the manager, stepped forward nervously. "Mrs. Trump, I want you to know this isn't what we stand for as a store. Amanda's behavior was completely—" "Actually," Laura cut in, "I think it's exactly what most luxury stores stand for. They just usually do it more subtly." She gestured around the boutique. "Look at this place. Everything about it is designed to intimidate. The stark white walls, the security guards, the way the clothes are displayed like museum pieces. It's all meant to make regular people feel like they don't belong." A murmur of agreement rippled through the onlookers. Even some of the other salespeople nodded slightly. "But you know what?" Lara continued, running her hand along a rack of designer dresses. "It's all just fabric and thread. Beautiful fabric, incredible craftsmanship, yes. But at the end of the day, it's just clothes. What matters is how you make people feel when they come in looking for something special." Amanda, who had been quietly organizing the discarded dresses, looked up. "When I was little, my mom saved for months to buy me a dress for graduation. When we finally went shopping, the saleswoman followed us around like she thought we were going to steal something. My mom pretended not to notice, but I saw her hands shaking when she handed over her credit card." "And now?" Laura prompted. "And now I've become that saleswoman," Amanda's voice cracked. "God, my mom would be so ashamed of me." "No," Lara said firmly. "Your mom would be proud that you learned from this, that you are going to do better." She turned back to Sarah. I want to make some changes here. Sarah straightened up. Of course, Mrs. Trump, whatever you. First, no more dress code requirements for customers. None. If someone walks in wearing flip-flops or yoga pants or a ball gown, they get treated exactly the same. But, second, Lara continued, I want a new training program, and Amanda's going to help design it. Amanda's head snapped up. What? You've seen both sides now. You know what it feels like to be judged, and you know what it feels like to be the one judging? That makes you the perfect person to teach others how not to make the same mistakes. The boutique had grown so quiet you could hear the air conditioning humming. Even the usually bustling street outside seemed muted, as if New York itself was holding its breath. And third, Lara added, reaching for her phone, I am going to make some calls. This store is going to start a program for women who've just gotten their first big job or promotion or life change. They'll get a personal shopper experience, reasonable payment plans, and most importantly, respect. Sarah's eyes widened. Mrs. Trump, I am not sure the corporate office would. The corporate office will love it once I explain how it's going to work. Trust me. Lara smiled, but there was steel behind it. Because here is the thing about luxury retail. It's not about excluding people. It's about making people feel extraordinary. She turned back to Amanda. Ready to ring up these dresses? Amanda nodded, wiping away the last of her tears. As they walked to the register, Lara noticed Katie still standing there, watching. You are going to be late for your coffee shop shift, Lara said kindly. Katie jumped. How did you know I had a shift? Because you keep checking the time on your phone. Go on. And remember what you learned today the next time someone orders a complicated drink. As Katie hurried out, Lara heard her say into her phone, Mom, you'll never believe what I just saw. An actual rich person with a real heart. At the register, Amanda's hands had started shaking again as she carefully folded each dress. The price total on the screen kept climbing, $12,000. 24,036,0. I don't deserve this chance, she whispered. None of us deserve our chances, Lara replied. What matters is what we do with them. As the final total appeared, a number that would have made headlines if anyone had leaked it, Lara handed over her credit card with a smile. Consider this your first test, Amanda. When I walk out of here today, you'll have a choice. You can brag about the huge sale you just made to a Trump, or you can focus on becoming the kind of person who helps others feel beautiful. Which will it be? Amanda met her eyes for the first time since the whole incident began. I choose helping others, I promise. And in that moment, something shifted in the boutique. It wasn't just about a sale or a lesson or even redemption. It was about the kind of power that doesn't come from money or status, the power to change someone's heart. After ringing up the dresses, Amanda reached for the store's signature black garment bags, her hands still trembling slightly. The total sale, well over 6 figures, glowed on the register screen like a testament to her monumental mistake. Would you like these delivered? Mrs. Tonchi caught herself, the reality of the situation hitting her anew with each passing moment. Before Lara could respond, the boutique's front door chimed. A tall, elegant woman in her 60s swept in, her designer handbag swinging purposefully. Lara, darling, I thought that was your car outside. Ivanka Trump Sr., Eric's mother, approached with a warm smile. I was just at that dreary charity committee meeting around the corner and thought I'd pop in to see if... She stopped short, taking in the scene. Amanda's tear-stained face, the pile of expensive dresses, the lingering crowd of onlookers. Mother, Lara said calmly, though her heart was racing. Perfect timing. I'd love your opinion on these pieces. Ivanka's eyes narrowed slightly, reading the room with the practiced ease of someone who'd navigated high society for decades. Sarah. She called to the manager. Is everything all right here? Sarah stepped forward, her professional smile barely masking her anxiety. Mrs. Trump, we were just helping Lara with some selections from the new collection. Indeed, Ivanka said, her gaze settling on Amanda. And who is this? This is Amanda, Lara interjected smoothly. She's been extremely educational today. A flash of understanding crossed Ivanka's face. She'd been in the family long enough to recognize when something significant was unfolding. Has she now? Amanda looked like she might faint. Meeting one Trump had been overwhelming enough. Now she faced 2 generations of the family she'd just insulted. "Mrs. Trump," she stammered, I am so sorry about earlier. I didn't know." "That's precisely the point, isn't it?" Ivanka interrupted, her voice gentle but firm. "You didn't know. And that's why we're having this conversation, aren't we, Lara?" Lara nodded, grateful for her mother-in-law's quick grasp of the situation. Amanda was just about to tell us about the time she helped a young woman celebrate her first promotion. "Weren't you, Amanda?" Amanda's face crumpled. I didn't. I turned her away, made her feel like she didn't belong here, just like I tried to do with Mrs. Trump with Lara today." Ivanka raised an perfectly groomed eyebrow. "Did you now? And how did that work out for you?" The question hung in the air like expensive perfume. The remaining customers edged closer, not even pretending to shop anymore. "It was a valuable lesson," Amanda whispered. "Oh, I am sure it was," Ivanka said, settling gracefully onto one of the boutique's velvet chairs. "You know, this reminds me of something that happened to me years ago, before I married into the Trump family." Sarah quickly brought another chair for Lara, while Amanda stood awkwardly, clutching the garment bags like a shield. "I was shopping for my engagement dinner dress," Ivanka continued. "I went to a boutique much like this one. This was before Trump Tower, before the real estate empire had really taken off. The saleswoman took one look at my off-the-rack dress and suggested I try the outlet mall downtown." She smiled at the memory. 2 years later, I bought that boutique. Not out of spite, though I won't pretend that wasn't satisfying, but because I saw an opportunity to change how people were treated. "Did you fire the saleswoman?" one of the customers asked. "No," Ivanka replied. "I promoted her to manager." A collective gasp went through the small crowd. "But why?" Amanda burst out, then immediately covered her mouth, horrified at her outburst. Ivanka's eyes twinkled. "Because she learned the same lesson you are learning today. Sometimes the most valuable employees are the ones who've made mistakes and grown from them." Lara watched her mother-in-law with newfound appreciation. She'd heard this story before, but watching it impact Amanda gave it new meaning. "The thing about luxury retail," Ivanka continued, examining her manicured nails, "is that it's not actually about the clothes or the prices. It's about dreams. Everyone who walks through that door is carrying a dream, a celebration, a milestone, a moment they want to make special. Your job isn't to judge whether they can afford that dream. Your job is to help make it come true." Sarah, who had been hovering nearby, stepped forward. "Mrs. Trump, Ivanka, I want you to know that this incident doesn't reflect our store's values." "Doesn't it?" Ivanka asked mildly. "Because from what I've seen over the years, it reflects the values of most luxury retail perfectly." The subtle sneers, the dismissive glances, the quiet assumptions. The only difference is that today, someone finally called it out. She turned to Amanda. "Tell me, dear, why did you want to work in luxury fashion?" Amanda swallowed hard. I wanted to be part of something beautiful, something special." "And do you feel special right now?" "No, ma'am. I feel ashamed." "Good," Ivanka said, but her tone was kind. "That shame means you are learning. Now, what do you plan to do with that lesson?" Before Amanda could respond, the boutique's door chimed again. A young woman walked in hesitantly, wearing a simple sundress and carrying, of all things, a Target shopping bag. Amanda's face went white. "Oh my God!" "What is it?" Lara asked. "That's her," Amanda whispered. "The woman I turned away last week. The one with the promotion." The young woman didn't notice them at first, running her hand longingly over a rack of silk blouses. Her engagement ring, modest but sparkling, caught the light. "Go," Lara urged Amanda. "This is your chance to make it right." Amanda took a shaky breath and stepped forward. "Welcome to Elysian Boutique," she called out, her voice trembling but warm. "I owe you an apology." The young woman looked up, recognizing Amanda immediately. Her face flushed. "I shouldn't have come back. I just got another promotion, and I thought maybe—" "Please," Amanda said, tears streaming down her face again. "Let me help you find something perfect to celebrate with, something as special as your achievement." Ivanka and Lara exchanged glances. Without a word, they both understood what needed to happen next. "Sarah," Ivanka called to the manager, "I believe it's time we discussed that community outreach program Lara mentioned, the one about helping women celebrate their milestone." Sarah nodded eagerly. "Of course, Mrs. Trump. And I think we've found our first participant," Lara added, gesturing to the young woman who was still standing frozen by the silk blouse. Amanda wiped her eyes and stood straighter. Would you like to see our new collection? I promise, this time I'll actually help you find exactly what you are looking for." The young woman hesitated. "I don't know if I can afford—" "Don't worry about that right now," Lara interrupted. "Today isn't about price tags. It's about celebrating your success. Amanda will help you find the perfect piece, and we'll make sure it works within your budget." As Amanda led the young woman toward the fitting rooms, her entire demeanor transformed. Gone was the snobbish facade, replaced by genuine warmth and enthusiasm. Ivanka leaned closer to Lara. "You handled this beautifully, you know. Donald would have fired her on the spot, made a scene, probably tweeted about." "That's exactly why I couldn't do that," Lara replied quietly. "Sometimes the best way to change people's perceptions is to defy their expectations." They watched as Amanda held up different blouses, explaining the cuts and colors with authentic excitement rather than condescension. The young woman's initial nervousness began to fade, replaced by genuine joy in the experience. "You know this will probably end up on social media eventually," Ivanka mused. "These things always do." "Good," Lara said firmly. "Let them see that not every Trump story ends in drama and firing. Let them see that sometimes the most powerful move is choosing kindness over revenge." Sarah approached with a stack of paperwork. "Mrs. Trump, both Mrs. Trumps, I've drafted some initial ideas for the outreach program. With your permission, I'd like to start implementing changes immediately. Starting with a revision of our customer service training," Lara added, giving Amanda a meaningful look. Across the store, they could hear the young woman's delighted laugh as she emerged from the fitting room in a beautiful blue blouse. Amanda was beaming with genuine pride, all traces of her former attitude gone. "Now that," Ivanka said softly, "is what luxury retail should look like." And in that moment, everyone in the store understood that they'd witnessed something rare and precious. The day when kindness trumped karma, when revenge gave way to redemption, and when a simple shopping trip became a master class in humanity. As the young woman twirled in front of the mirror in her new blouse, Amanda carefully adjusted the collar. The transformation in the saleswoman's demeanor was remarkable. Every gesture now spoke of genuine care rather than condescension. "Jenny," Amanda said softly, using the customer's name she dismissed just a week ago, "this color brings out your eyes beautifully. And look how it fits through the shoulders, perfect for presenting to the board in your new role." Jenny blushed, smoothing the silk fabric. "I never thought I'd be shopping in a place like this. When you turned me away last week, I went home and cried. Told my fiancé I was stupid for even trying." Amanda's hands froze on the collar. "I am so sorry. You have no idea how sorry." "Actually," Jenny said, meeting Amanda's eyes in the mirror, "I think I do. I saw what happened earlier with Mrs. Trump. I was outside the store trying to work up the courage to come back in. Saw the whole thing through the window." From their seats nearby, Lara and Ivanka exchanged knowing glances. "Sometimes," Ivanka commented quietly to her daughter-in-law, "the universe has a way of orchestrating perfect moments." Sarah approached with a tablet, displaying a rough draft of the new store policies. "I've outlined the basics of the outreach program. We could start with monthly events for women celebrating career milestones, offering personal shopping experiences and flexible payment plans. Add mentoring," Lara suggested. "Partner with women's professional organizations. Make it about more than just clothes." "And use Amanda's story," Ivanka added, causing the manager to look up in surprise. "Not as a cautionary tale, but as a testimony to growth and change." Back at the mirror, Jenny was reaching for the price tag with trembling fingers. Her face fell slightly as she saw the number. "I don't think I can," she began. "Yes, you can," Amanda interrupted. "Remember what Mrs. Trump said? We'll make it work. We have payment plans and—" She hesitated, then continued firmly, "And I am giving up my commission on this sale. It's the least I can do." "That won't be necessary," Ivanka called out, rising gracefully from her seat. She walked over to Jenny, her heels clicking on the marble floor. "Tell me about your promotion, dear." Jenny straightened instinctively. "Hi, I was promoted to senior financial analyst. It's a big step up, my first management role." "Financial analysis?" Ivanka's eyes sparkled. "Well then, let's talk about investment dressing. Every piece you buy should work multiple ways. Maximize your return on investment. Amanda, show her how that blouse pairs with at least 3 different looks." For the next hour, the store transformed into a masterclass in both style and humanity. Amanda worked tirelessly, bringing different pieces, demonstrating combinations, while Ivanka offered subtle suggestions about professional dressing. Lara watched it all, occasionally catching Sarah's eye as the manager frantically took notes for the new program. Other customers drifted in and out, each receiving the same attentive service from the other staff members, who had clearly taken notes from the day's events. The usual air of exclusivity had been replaced by something warmer, more genuine. "You know," Jenny said as Amanda wrapped up her purchases, not just the blouse, but a complete capsule wardrobe that Ivanka had helped coordinate with a payment plan, "I almost didn't come back. My fiancé said I should report what happened last week to corporate." Amanda's hand stilled on the tissue paper. "I would have deserved that." "Maybe," Jenny agreed, "but this is better. Watching you learn and change, helping other people feel beautiful, that's worth more than any complaint I could have filed." From across the store, a newcomer's voice rang out. "Hello, I am looking for someone to help me find a mother of the bride dress." The woman who entered was wearing yoga pants and a faded t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Every head turned to Amanda. Without hesitation, Amanda stepped forward, a genuine smile lighting up her face. "Welcome to Elysian Boutique. Congratulations on your daughter's wedding. Tell me all about the big day while I show you our latest collection." Lara felt her eyes welling up as she watched Amanda lead the woman to the evening wear section, chattering warmly about wedding colors and venues. "She's going to be all right," Ivanka said softly. "They all are." Sarah cleared her throat. "Mrs. Trump, Larrett, here's something else you should know. That video from earlier, the one the young woman deleted?" "What about it?" "Someone else was recording too. It's already starting to circulate on social media." Lara's heart skipped a beat. In the age of viral videos and cancel culture, this could go very wrong very quickly. But before she could respond, Ivanka placed a hand on her arm. "Let it circulate," she said firmly. "Let them see what real class looks like. Let them see that the Trump name can be associated with compassion as well as power." Jenny, who was gathering her shopping bags, paused. "Mrs. Trump? Both Mrs. Trumps? Thank you. Not just for helping me today, but for showing that sometimes the best revenge is helping someone become better." As if on cue, they could hear Amanda's voice floating over from the evening wear section. "Don't worry about the price right now. Let's find what makes you feel beautiful first. Everyone deserves that moment." And in that instant, everyone in the store knew they'd witnessed something extraordinary. Not just a lesson in humility, but a masterclass in grace. By the next morning, the video had gone viral. Number Trump kindness was trending on Twitter, competing with dozens of hot takes and reactions. Some praised Lara's grace under pressure. Others claimed it was all staged for publicity. The truth, as always, lay somewhere in between. Amanda Chen sat in her small apartment staring at her phone in disbelief. The notifications wouldn't stop coming. Friends, family, and complete strangers had all seen the video of her greatest mistake and Lara Trump's unexpected response. "You need to see this," her mother's text read, followed by a link to yet another news article about the incident. Before she could reply, her phone buzzed with a call from Sarah, the store manager. "Amanda, are you watching the news?" "How could I not be?" Amanda's voice trembled. It's everywhere. Corporate wants to talk to us, all of us. They're calling an emergency meeting at the store before opening. Amanda's heart sank. Despite Lara Trump's forgiveness, she knew corporate might have different ideas. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The morning air was crisp as Amanda hurried down the street toward Elysian Boutique. A small crowd of reporters had already gathered outside, their cameras ready. She kept her head down, trying to slip past unnoticed. Are you her, the saleswoman from the video? What did Lara Trump really say to you? Was it all staged for publicity? The questions followed her to the door, where security let her in quickly. Inside, the usually peaceful store was a hive of activity. Corporate executives in sharp suits stood in tight clusters, speaking in hushed tones. Sarah paced nervously near the register. Amanda! Sarah waved her over. They want us all in the back room, now! The back room was packed. Every employee from part-time staff to senior management sat in tense silence as the CEO of Elysian Retail Group, Margaret Chen, no relation to Amanda, stood at the front. By now, I am sure you've all seen the video, Margaret began. What happened yesterday has become more than just a viral moment. It's forced us to look at ourselves as a company. Amanda felt tears welling up again. This was it. She was about to be made an example of, her career in luxury retail over, before it really began. The door opened, and everyone turned to look. Lara Trump walked in, followed by Ivanka. But they weren't alone. Behind them came Jenny, the customer from yesterday, and, to everyone's shock, nearly a dozen other women. Sorry we're late, Lara said calmly. Traffic was terrible, but I brought some people who wanted to speak to you all. Margaret raised an eyebrow. Mrs. Trump, we appreciate your interest, but this is an internal company matter. No, one of the women stepped forward. This is about all of us. I am Barbara Wilson. 3 months ago, I came into this store looking for a dress for my daughter's graduation. Your staff treated me like I was dirt because I was wearing scrubs after my hospital shift. Another woman spoke up. I am Rachel Cheno, relation to anyone here. Last year, I tried to buy a bag to celebrate making partner at my law firm. I was told maybe I should try the outlet mall instead. One by one, the women shared similar stories. Stories of dismissal, of judgment, of being made to feel small in a place that should have made them feel extraordinary. Amanda couldn't stop the tears now. How many of these women had she personally turned away? How many dreams had she crushed with a sneer or a dismissive comment? This isn't just about one incident caught on video, Lara said finally. This is about a culture that needs to change. And thanks to Amanda, we have a chance to do that. Everyone turned to look at Amanda, who wanted nothing more than to disappear into the floor. Me? She squeaked. Yes, you. Ivanka stepped forward. Because you did something rare in this world, you accepted your mistake and showed genuine remorse. You didn't try to justify it or make excuses. You learned from it. Margaret frowned. While that's admirable, the damage to our brand has been minimal compared to the opportunity. Lara interrupted. Look at social media. Yes, people are talking about the incident, but they're also talking about redemption, about grace, about second chances. She pulled out her phone and read from the screen. Watching that saleswoman transform from judgment to genuine kindness gave me hope. If a Trump can show that much compassion, maybe we all need to rethink our assumptions. This is what real class looks like. Jenny stepped forward then, still wearing the blue blouse she'd bought yesterday. When Amanda turned me away last week, I felt worthless. But watching her learn and grow, seeing her help me yesterday with real kindness, that meant more than any apology could. Margaret was silent for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. What exactly are you proposing? A complete overhaul of your customer service training, Lara said firmly, with Amanda leading the program. Me? Amanda nearly choked. Yes, you, Ivanka smiled. Who better to teach others about the impact of judgment than someone who's learned its cost firsthand? But that's not all, Lara continued. We want to implement the outreach program we discussed yesterday, monthly events for women celebrating milestones, mentorship opportunities, payment plans that make luxury accessible to those willing to invest in themselves. And, Ivanka added, a new marketing campaign. Real stories of real women, not just models and celebrities, starting with these ladies here. The room was silent as Margaret considered this. Finally, she turned to Amanda. Miss Chen, yesterday you made a terrible mistake, one that could have cost this company dearly. What do you have to say for yourself? Amanda stood shakily. I could apologize again, but that's not enough. What I want to say is this. I forgot why I wanted to work in fashion in the first place. It wasn't to make people feel small. It was to make them feel beautiful, special, worthy. I lost sight of that somewhere along the way. But thanks to Mrs. Trump's kindness, I found it again. She turned to face the women who had shared their stories. I can't undo what was done to you, by me or by others, but I can help make sure it never happens to anyone else. Margaret nodded slowly. Mrs. Trump, both Mrs. Trumps, your proposal is ambitious. It would require significant changes to our business model. Sometimes, Lara said quietly, the biggest changes bring the biggest rewards. The CEO looked around the room, at the hopeful faces of her staff, at the women who had bravely shared their stories, at Amanda's tear-streaked but determined expression. Very well, she said finally. Miss Chen, consider yourself promoted to Director of Customer Experience and Community Outreach. Your first task is to work with our training department to develop the new program. Mrs. Trump, we would be honored if you would serve as honorary chair of our outreach initiative. The tension in the room broke as people began to applaud. Amanda found herself surrounded by the very women whose stories had moved her to tears, each of them offering support and encouragement. Remember this feeling, Lara said softly, approaching Amanda. Remember how it feels to be given grace when you least deserve it, and pass it on. Later that day, as Amanda helped another customer, this one in running shoes and gym clothes, find the perfect anniversary gift, her phone buzzed with a message from her mother. Saw the video, it read. Saw the news about your promotion too. But you know what made me proudest? Watching you learn to be kind. That's worth more than any designer dress. And as she looked around the store, at Jenny chatting with a nervous first-time customer, at Sarah rearranging displays to be more welcoming, at the steady stream of women of all types walking through the doors, Amanda understood something profound. Sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the most important lessons. Sometimes the most powerful people are the ones who choose kindness over revenge. And sometimes, just sometimes, a moment of shame can become a lifetime of grace. The story could have ended there, but real change takes time, effort, and dedication. 1 month later, Elysian Boutique hosted its first milestone celebration event. The store was transformed, with the usual stark minimalism replaced by warm lighting and comfortable seating areas. Women from all walks of life filled the space, doctors still in scrubs, teachers with chalk dust on their sleeves, young entrepreneurs in startup t-shirts. Amanda stood at the center of it all, barely recognizing herself. Gone was the judgmental saleswoman who had once turned people away. In her place stood someone new, someone better. Welcome, everyone, she began, her voice clear and confident. A month ago, I learned the hardest lesson of my life right here in this store. Today, we're here to make sure no one ever feels unwelcome in these doors again. Lara Trump, sitting quietly in the back, smiled as she watched. Her phone buzzed with a text from Eric. Have you seen the Wall Street Journal article? She had. The business world was taking notice of Elysian's transformation. Their stock price had actually gone up since implementing the new inclusive policies. Turns out, treating people with dignity was good for business. Mrs. Trump, a young woman approached hesitantly. I am Katie, the one who tried to record everything that day. I just wanted to say thank you. I quit my coffee shop job and applied for a position here. Amanda's training me herself. And how's that going? Lara asked. Katie beamed. Yesterday, a woman came in wearing flip-flops and carrying a Target bag. She'd just finished cancer treatment and wanted to buy something special to celebrate. Amanda showed me how to make her feel like the most important person in the world. Across the store, Jenny was leading a workshop on professional dressing on a budget. She'd become a regular presence at the store, helping other women navigate the sometimes intimidating world of luxury fashion. The key isn't how much you spend, Jenny was saying. It's how the clothes make you feel. When I first came here, I was scared to even touch anything. Now, look at me, teaching others. Margaret Chen, the CEO, appeared at Lara's elbow. The board is impressed with the numbers. We're rolling out this program to all our locations. Amanda is flying to Chicago next week to train their staff. And the social media response? Margaret smiled. See for yourself, number Elysian for everyone is trending. We've had influencers begging to cover our events, but we're keeping it authentic. Real women, real stories. The door chimed, and everyone turned to look. A woman in a wheelchair entered, looking uncertain. Amanda immediately moved forward. Welcome to Elysian. We just got in some amazing pieces designed specifically for seated wear. Would you like to see? The woman's face lit up. You have adaptive clothing? We do now, Amanda smiled. And if you don't see exactly what you want, we have an in-house tailor who can modify anything to work perfectly for you. Lara felt a hand on her shoulder. It was Ivanka. You did good, sweetheart, her mother-in-law said softly. Donald called me this morning, you know. Said he didn't understand why we didn't just fire her and sue the store. And what did you tell him? I told him to watch the store's profits this quarter. Sometimes the best revenge is success, just not the kind of success he's used to. As the evening wound down, Amanda gathered all the employees for a final meeting. The store had changed physically too. The intimidating white walls now featured photos of real customers wearing their Elysian purchases at graduations, promotions, weddings, and cancer-free salons. Remember, Amanda told her staff, every person who walks through that door is carrying a dream. Our job isn't to judge whether they deserve it. Our job is to help make it come true. After everyone left, Lara lingered behind. Amanda was carefully straightening a display, humming softly to herself. Happy? Lara asked. Amanda turned, her eyes bright. You know what the strangest part is? I actually love my job more now. Before, I was so focused on maintaining this image of exclusivity that I missed the real joy, helping people feel beautiful. And the viral video, the attention. At first, I was mortified, Amanda admitted. But then I started getting messages from other retail workers, confessing similar behaviors, asking how to change. We're starting a whole movement in luxury retail. Who would have thought my worst moment would lead to this? Lara picked up her purse, ready to leave. Sometimes our worst moments become our best teachers. Just promise me one thing? Anything, Mrs. Trump. Next time you see someone in yoga pants and a messy bun, remember, they might just be a billionaire's daughter-in-law having a casual day. They both laughed, the sound echoing through the transformed store. Outside, New York City rushed by, unaware that within these walls, a small revolution in kindness had begun. And somewhere in the city, a woman was gathering her courage to walk into a luxury store for the first time, unaware that thanks to one moment of grace, she would be welcomed with open arms.